Okay, have you ever had that feeling? You know the one, that little voice, that instinct telling you you should do something.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it's hitting snooze instead of just getting up,
Right.
or putting off that really difficult conversation you know you have to have.
Or even chasing a big dream, right? It feels too big.
Exactly. It's that moment where, like, you want to act, you know what the right thing is, but something just holds you back. You don't launch.
It's such a common internal battle, isn't it? That gap between knowing and doing. And that's exactly what we're diving into today with the 5-second rule.
Right.
It sounds so simple, but the way it works is actually pretty profound.
It really is. And it's not just counting backward, is it? I mean, that's the mechanic, sure.
Right, that's the tool.
But it's more about fundamentally changing how you relate to your own thoughts, your instincts, and ultimately what you actually do.
Yeah.
So for this deep dive, we've gone through a whole stack of material, articles, research, lots of personal stories, looking at where this rule came from, which is kind of surprising.
It is, yeah.
The neuroscience behind why it clicks, and just tons of real-world examples, people whose lives genuinely changed.
And our mission here really is to pull out the biggest insights from all that. The stuff that maybe makes you go, huh. We want to help you understand how this tiny little action, just 5 seconds, can spark huge changes.
Uncover some surprising things, maybe.
Definitely. And give you practical ways you can, start using this right away, like today.
Okay, let's get into it. So powerful stories often start from a tough place, right? A crisis. And the 5-second rule is no different. The author talks about being at rock bottom, financial stress, marriage problems, drinking too much, feeling sorry for herself. She describes like pretending everything was fine publicly.
The mask we wear.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
But inside, just feeling completely trapped. What was it about her specific situation, do you think, that made her ready for this simple idea?
Well, what's interesting is that it wasn't like one big dramatic event. It was more of a slow burn,
Yeah.
a feeling of being suffocated, stuck.
Right.
And it was that kind of quiet desperation, I think, that made her notice something almost insignificant. One night, she's watching TV, sees a rocket launch, hears the countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Sees the fire, the lift
Yeah, and has this fleeting thought, just an instinct, really.
Which was?
That's it. Tomorrow I'm launching myself out of bed like that rocket. She literally thought, I'll move so fast I won't have time to talk myself out of it.
Wow. Just a tiny little idea. So easy to ignore.
So easy. But the key is she actually did it the next morning. She acted on that instinct.
And that connects to some actual science, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About instincts and goals.
It does, yeah. Research from places like University of Arizona, Cornell, Duke, it shows that when you set a goal, your brain kind of opens a checklist.
Okay.
Then when you're near something related to that goal, like say you walk past a gym and your goal is to get fit, your prefrontal cortex actually lights up. It sends out an instinct. Go in or do something.
So these aren't just random thought.
No, the source material calls them your inner wisdom, your brain's signaling an opportunity. And acting on them, even in small ways, deliberately, that can be life-changing.
Inner wisdom. I like that. But, we have so many thoughts swirling around.
Okay.
How do you know which one is that useful instinct versus just noise or like a bad impulse?
That's a really important question. The rule isn't about acting on every single random thought or dangerous impulse. It's specifically for those moments when you know what you probably should do.
Like getting out of bed, speaking up in a meeting, starting that assignment.
Exactly. Things you know are good for you, but you feel that immediate hesitation, that resistance.
Why does that happen so fast, the resistance?
It's your brain's wiring. It's designed to keep you safe, to avoid anything that feels uncertain or scary or just different. So the second you hesitate on something new, your brain goes into protection mode and throws up all these reasons not to do it.
A million excuses.
Pretty much. And it happens incredibly fast, faster than you realize. The rule works because it forces you to move before that defense mechanism fully kicks in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, G. You just move.
You beat the brain's trick.
You beat the hesitation. Yeah.
And what was wild is how the public part of this journey started almost by accident too, right? Her media career.
Totally unexpected. There was an article in Inc. magazine about her coaching business, and suddenly CNBC calls, then ABC, then Sirius Radio.
Wow.
Even though apparently the pay was terrible at first, and it meant tons of travel while raising kids, but she just went for it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, maybe.
Must have been. And then the rule itself.
Yeah.
She first mentioned it in a TEDx talk.
Yeah, back in 2011, the talk was called How to Stop Screwing Yourself Over. But the funny thing is she barely explained the rule itself in the talk.
Really? What was she talking about then?
Mostly about her dream of being a talk radio host, believe it or not. But somehow the talk went viral anyway, and she started getting flooded with letters, emails, tens of thousands from people saying, hey, I tried that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 thing, and
it worked.
yeah. It was working for all sorts of things. That's when she realized, okay, something's really happening here. And being a lawyer, she felt she had to dig into the research, figure out why it worked, prove it.
So she kind of reverse engineered the science after seeing the results?
Pretty much, yeah. She went nuts on the research, as she put it.
Okay, so it all starts with that initial push. Let's talk about courage. The source defines it simply as, well, the ability to do things that feel hard, scary, uncertain. And the key takeaway for me was that it's not some special quality only heroes have.
Yeah.
It's apparently a birthright. It's inside all of us.
Exactly. Courage isn't about, jumping out of planes necessarily. It's mostly about a push, that little push you give yourself.
To do what?
To stand up when you want to sit down, to speak up when you want to stay quiet, to show up when you'd rather hide, to go first. Just whatever feels difficult in that moment, it's pushing back against that comfort-seeking brain.
The perfect example given is Rosa Parks.
A powerful one.
Her refusing to give up her seat. It wasn't some big planned protest, was it?
No, she described it as totally spontaneous, an immediate reaction. She just felt, I was not being treated right. No hesitation, no overthinking. It just happened.
And that single split-second act of courage, well, it changed history.
It really did. And there's a fascinating follow-up to that. Just 4 days later, same city, the young preacher who was chosen to lead the Montgomery bus boycott, he was only 26.
Right, Martin Luther King Jr.
Yes. He later wrote that if they had given him time to actually think about whether to accept the leadership role, he probably would have said no.
Wow. Too much time to doubt himself.
Exactly. The speed of the decision, the lack of hesitation was crucial. It bypassed the what-ifs.
Man, it makes you think, how many things do we let slide because we wait? We wait for the right time.
Oh, constant.
To have that talk, ask for the raise, start the project.
Always waiting.
It reminds me of that Wayne Gretzky quote, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
It's so true. And you almost never regret the things you did try, even if they didn't work out perfectly.
No, it's the holding back you regret.
Right. And often, what makes us hold back is this deep fear, a fear of sucking.
Huh, yeah.
The author tells a story about her daughter, Kendall, who's a singer. Talented. But she avoided an audition in New York City.
Why? Stage fright.
Not exactly the audition itself. It was the fear of what might happen after. What if she wasn't good enough? What if she failed? What if people judged her?
Protecting the ego.
Totally. Protecting the ego, even if it means killing the dream before it even has a chance.
So the antidote proposed is pretty blunt, isn't it?
Very blunt. Just ask yourself, so what?
So what if I suck? So what if I fail?
Exactly. So what? At least you put yourself out there. At least you tried. The only way to know what you're capable of is to push yourself to act.
And this fear, it's not just us regular folks, right? Even the greats felt it.
Oh, absolutely. Michelangelo apparently hid from the Pope for 2 years because he doubted he could paint the Sistine Chapel ceiling.
Seriously, Michelangelo.
Yep. And Steve Wozniak, co-founder of Apple, he was terrified to quit his stable job at HP to start Apple. Steve Jobs and others practically had to drag him into it.
Wow. So it raises that question the author poses. What are you waiting for?
Yeah. How many potential geniuses, artists, leaders are out there right now holding back because they don't have someone pushing them, or more importantly, they aren't pushing themselves?
That is a heavy thought. Okay, but the good news is the rule gives us tools, actual techniques to use this courage for everyday challenges like worry. So many of us worry constantly.
It's a huge one. And the source material frames it as a learned habit, not just who you are.
A habit.
Yeah. And interestingly, research from Cornell interviewing over 1,000 seniors, one of their biggest regrets, wishing they hadn't spent so much time worrying.
Wow. Okay, so how does the 5-second rule help break that habit? It's not just distracting yourself, is it?
No, it's more active than that. It uses gratitude as a kind of physiological override.
Okay, explain that. Physiological override.
So when your mind starts spiraling into worry, you use the countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That interrupts the pattern. Then immediately you ask yourself 2 questions. What am I grateful for right now, in this moment? And what do I want to remember?
Okay.
And here's the cool part. Thinking about gratitude isn't just a nice thought. It actually triggers biological changes. It activates your brainstem, releases dopamine. It physically shifts your brain's focus away from the worry loop towards positive neurochemistry.
So you're hacking your brain chemistry with gratitude.
Essentially, yes, you're deliberately changing your state. The author used it herself when she was feeling panicked while her daughter was trying on a prom dress. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, what am I grateful for? Boom, back in the present, calm.
That's powerful. Actively changing your brain state, not just wishing the worry away.
Yeah.
Okay, what about anxiety and fear?
Well, here's another mind bender. Physiologically, in your body, anxiety and excitement feel exactly the same.
Wait, really? Same physical response?
Identical.
Wow.
Heart racing, palms sweaty, butterflies. The only difference is the label your mind puts on that feeling.
Huh. Can you give an example?
Think about a near miss in your car. You swerve, avoid an accident. Your body is flooded with adrenaline, right? Heart pounding.
Totally. Freaked out.
But your mind immediately understands why. Whoa, that was close. It has an explanation. So the feeling passes quickly. It doesn't turn into lingering anxiety or fear because your brain has context.
Okay, so if you can give your brain context for the feeling, like before public speaking, if you tell yourself, I'm excited to share this.
Exactly. You reframe the physical sensation as excitement, not panic. Your brain accepts that explanation and the anxiety doesn't escalate.
And for specific phobias, like fear of flying.
The suggestion is using anchoring images. When the fear hits, you count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you vividly picture yourself at your destination.
Like walking on the beach or meeting the client.
Yeah, something positive and concrete that represents the purpose of the flight. This gives your brain that crucial context for the nervous energy. Instead of danger, the feeling becomes associated with the positive outcome you're visualizing.
So the context changes the feeling.
It dissolves the fear because the brain has a better story. Like Fran, who used it for flying, said, I can't believe how much I was missing by being afraid.
It really shows how much power our internal narrative has. Okay, so fear, anxiety. What about procrastination, that thing we just keep putting off?
Procrastination. Turns out there are actually 2 flavors.
2? I thought it was all bad.
Nope. There's destructive procrastination, that's the bad kind, avoiding things you know you need to do. But there's also productive procrastination.
Productive procrastination, how does that work?
It's more for creative projects, things without hard deadlines. It's about intentionally letting your mind wander, taking breaks, stepping away, sometimes for weeks.
Yeah, and that helps.
Apparently, yes. It allows for more divergent thinking, more creative connections. The author mentioned taking 7 months longer on her book because she allowed for this and felt the book was way better for it.
Interesting. So how do you make sure it's productive wandering and not just destructive avoidance?
It boils down to conscious choice, really. Productive procrastination is planned. You step away knowing you'll come back refreshed. Destructive is that nagging feeling of avoidance, like the example of Scott, the PhD student.
Right, he knows what to do, misses deadlines, feels bad, but just can't start.
Exactly. And for that kind, there's a great technique from Dr. Peikel's research. Thinking about your future self.
Future self.
Yeah. You literally picture the version of you who has already achieved the goal, like Professor Scott. Envisioning that future you gives you some distance, some objectivity on the present stress.
So when you feel like procrastinating, you ask,
what would future me do? What would Professor Scott do right now? It helps you tap into coping mechanisms and rationality, pushing past the immediate discomfort for that long-term gain.
That makes a lot of sense, creating psychological distance. Okay, let's shift to confidence and passion. We often think confidence is just personality. You either have it or you don't.
But the source argues it's not fixed. It's built. It's believing in yourself, and that belief grows through small, consistent acts of everyday courage.
Like the Cisco engineer using 54321 just to introduce himself to people.
Exactly. Or Crystal, who started using it to finally speak up in meetings. Each small act builds the muscle.
And this ties into that idea of free traits.
Yeah, that's Professor Brian Little's concept. It means we can choose to act out of character if it serves a core project or value.
Even if it feels uncomfortable or unnatural.
Especially then. Like Professor Little herself, an introvert, pushing himself to give engaging lectures because teaching is his core project. The 5-second rule is the tool that helps you make that push, bridging the gap between feeling and action when your values are on the line.
So you act despite your natural inclination sometimes. How does this apply to finding your passion? It seems so big.
The advice is simple. Start exploring. Follow your curiosity. If you keep thinking about something, maybe try it as a hobby. Pay attention to envy, too. Sometimes it points towards what you secretly want.
Envy is a clue. Interesting.
Yeah. And the path doesn't have to be some grand leap. It often unfolds step by step. As the author puts it, a class leads to a certification. A certification leads to conversations. Conversations lead to opportunities. Small steps build momentum.
That makes it feel less daunting. There's a powerful story about this, isn't there? Todd.
Oh, Todd's story is amazing. He spent 4 years studying law and business, mostly to make his parents happy.
But his real passion was
Physical education, totally different field. One day, he's sitting in this advanced taxation law lecture feeling miserable, and this instinct just hits him.
and using the rule.
Using the rule, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, he literally gathered his books, stood up mid-lecture, walked out, went straight to the registrar, unenrolled from law, and applied for the phys ed program on the spot.
Wow. Just like that.
Just like that. He said his body was shaking, but he did it. A pure moment of acting on instinct towards his passion.
That takes guts.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk relationships. This is where things can get really tricky, those difficult conversations.
And the core message here is urgency. Act right now. There's never a perfect time to have the hard talk or say, I love you, or really truly listen. Waiting is often just avoidance.
Because tomorrow isn't promised.
Exactly. The author shared a really moving story about her own father. He needed open brain surgery, a serious situation,
Yeah.
and she felt this urge to ask him something direct, something vulnerable. Using the rule for courage, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, she just asked him, Dad, are you scared?
That's a hard question to ask.
And a hard one to answer. But it opened up this incredible conversation. He talked about having no regrets, about things he still wanted to do, see Africa, jump out of a plane at 90. It was a moment of pure connection, only possible because she pushed past her hesitation.
Leaving nothing important unsaid. That's the theme.
Absolutely. We hear about Courtney using the rule to finally call her estranged father after years. A woman finding the clarity to choose divorce in a single moment of action, feeling it was her true self speaking.
And that quote about the son's last text message.
Right. His mother said, he thought it, he sent it. We will treasure it for the rest of our lives. It's a powerful reminder. If it matters, don't wait. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just say it.
Just say it. Okay, finally, health and daily habits. This is where many of us struggle with consistency.
And the key insight here is huge. You cannot control how you feel, but you can always control how you act.
Feelings are just suggestions, not commands.
Exactly. Think about pro athletes. They don't always feel like training, especially when exhausted, but they do it anyway. They act based on commitment, not mood. The feeling often follows the action.
So just do it, basically.
Pretty much. Just do it anyway.
And this starts with the very first decision of the day, right? Getting out of bed. It seems small, but why is it emphasized so much?
Because that first act of choosing action over comfort, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, Joe, get up with the alarm, sets the tone. It's a small win, but it establishes personal power. You're telling yourself, I'm in control, not my feelings.
And the author's trick of keeping the phone in the bathroom helps force that.
Yeah, it removes the temptation to lie there scrolling. It forces the physical launch.
Makes sense. And for bigger things like exercise, diet, same principle.
Same exact principle. You'll almost never feel like it. Don't wait for the feeling. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Get to the gym. Put down the cookie. Walk past the tempting cafe.
The stories here are pretty incredible, too. Charlie losing 176 pounds.
Yeah, using the rule every day for 529 days straight to stick to juicing. And Alice, 19 years old, struggling with anxiety, agoraphobia, she used the rule to start being honest with herself, lost 28 pounds, changed her major, asserting control bit by bit.
It shows the cumulative power of those small pushes.
Definitely. And it's not just for weight loss or habits. Think about Greg Cheek running 10 marathons after a stage 3 cancer diagnosis.
Oh.
Or Amy Robach getting that mammogram live on TV. She didn't want to do it, but 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, she did. And it potentially saved lives, including her own down the line indirectly. It's about choosing action over fear, even when the stakes are incredibly high.
So as we wrap this up, it's clear the rule helps you start. But what about keeping going? The long game. Dreams don't happen overnight.
That's crucial. The source emphasizes that the real difference between people who achieve big things and those who just dream about them is twofold. The courage to start and the discipline to keep going.
And the rule helps with both parts, the starting and the continuing.
Yes, because you use it again and again every time you face resistance or doubt or feel like quitting. And a huge part of keeping going is understanding failure.
How so?
Failure isn't an interruption to the process. It is the process. Look at the examples. Rovio made a 51 failed games before Angry Birds hit.
51.
Mark Ruffalo. Nearly 600 auditions before his first real role. Babe Ruth struck out over 1,300 times. James Dyson, 5,127 prototypes for his vacuum.
5,127. That's unbelievable persistence.
Picasso made over 50,000 pieces of art, not just the famous masterpieces. Lin-Manuel Miranda struggled with Hamilton for 6 years, battling constant self-doubt. Failure and persistence are baked into success.
It's not one and done. It's consistent effort pushing through setbacks.
Exactly. So the core idea we keep coming back to is listen to your heart, that instinct. When it speaks, honor it. 54321G. Don't let your brain's hesitation win.
Because the alternative is, well, pretty stark, isn't it? Missing out on who you could become.
Yeah, dying before you've actually pushed yourself to live, as the source puts it. The potential, the power, it's already inside you. You just need to unlock it with action.
By listening to those instincts and giving yourself that push.
It's not about waiting for life to be perfect or amazing. It's about moving through all of it.
There's that quote about life being amazing, then awful, then amazing again.
Right, and in between, it's just ordinary, routine, mundane.
And greatness, or just living fully, isn't about only acting during the amazing parts.
No, it's about finding the courage to move, to push. 54321. Through the awful, through the ordinary, through all of it. 1 5-second decision at a time.
So the final thought for everyone listening is, what small instinctive step could you take right now in the next 5 seconds that might just change everything? 5.4.3.2.1.go.